Hello, I'm LeeAnne Ruff. When we think about what makes a community strong, we often think about schools, businesses, or beautiful places. But just as important is something we can't always see, whether people feel welcomed, valued, and like they truly belong. My guest today is Tiffany Rea-Fisher, Director of the Adirondack Diversity Initiative, a program of the Adirondack North Country Association. Through her work, she's helping communities across the region build stronger connections, encourage meaningful dialogue, and create places where everyone has the opportunity to feel at home. Please join me in welcoming Tiffany Rea-Fisher.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'm really excited to be here.
Well, it's really our privilege to have you here today as well, because I want to learn more about the Adirondack Diversity Initiative. So let's start there. Tell us about that.
All right, let's jump into it. It's one of my favorite subjects. So we are a very small team. So there's 3 people that work, and we work within 7 areas of diversity within 14 counties. So I just want to start there to kind of give scope. And it's hard, you know, when you're working in something that is systemic and knowing that it's not going to, you're not going to see the needle go all the way where you want, probably in your lifetime. Mm-hmm. It takes a certain type of, I think, personality to jump into those arenas, but it's also really rewarding because it's kind of like a hearts and minds campaign. I think this idea sometimes when people push against it, it's like, no, this is a human need to feel like we belong. We are pack animals at the, at the core of it. And so this initiatives like ours work in a myriad of different ways to make sure that we can be a true community and therefore our best selves, and for our best selves too. It's also an economic driver. You know, there's all of these things that I think sometimes people forget the positive offshoots of diversity. Mm-hmm. That's not just feel good.
What are some of the initiatives that you have within your little team?
Yeah.
And like, how do you manage that? Like, what do you see as the priorities of these initiatives right now in our community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, when you look at it, we want to see where we can get the most bang for our buck, right? Mm-hmm. So when we were looking at where the need was, we wanted to kind of grab these pinch points, and so one of our biggest initiatives is working with law enforcement, and I think that that's really important because they interact with all sorts of different community members constantly. And whether it's visitors coming in and you're getting like caught in those speed traps that you don't know about, or it's people that are in corrections, or, there's law enforcement is something that is necessary for communities to exist, and there's othering on both sides. So that is actually a really great place for us to come together. And so what we do is that we have, over the last 5 years, I believe, we've trained over 400 law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. And we talk about trauma. And it's trauma-informed training, but one of the things that I think is really important is that you cannot come into someone else's space and tell them how to do their job, mm-hmm. especially if you don't do their job. So we work with RINS Consulting, and the consulting firm is made up of former officers. And we talk about trauma. We talk about police trauma and what that is, and we talk about community trauma and what that, where the overlap is. Mm-hmm. Because, there's that saying, hurt people hurt people. Right. And when you are calling, if you are calling law enforcement, you are probably calling on the worst day of your life. You are not showing up as your best self. You just can't. And so it's important that they know how to show up as their best self, because that power dynamic, at the end of the day, whatever the interaction is, you can't carry them off in handcuffs, right? But they can carry you off in handcuffs. So it's important that we're mindful of that power dynamic. Right. And you have to remember that the police academy, this is like, it's a very short amount of time in which you are like drinking from the fire hose, mm-hmm. of information. And so a lot of the, I mean, I guess they would call them maybe like soft skills now, get lost, and that interpersonal gets lost. And also, you know, one of the things that we find in that too is that, you know, almost 100% of the academy is training for the bad guy, but in the top 5 things that take out our law enforcement, that's number 4. Number 1 is suicide. So we need to make sure that our law enforcement are okay, that they are okay so that we are okay. And I think when you come in with that type of care, it changes, you know, everything. And this year what's been so exciting is that we've been able to do a survey that the officers are able to talk about what this training does in their day-to-day interactions. Because before, it was me being in the room and watching these aha moments and then telling people, but of course they're going to think that I say that the program I'm running works, you know? So it was really wonderful to be able to get this quantitative data to say, okay, these are the ways in which this directly correlates to this. So important. And now we've been able to take that to the Attorney General's office. We've been able to work with multiple bureaus there and also talk to legislation about what the officers need to do their job well, and we are coming as advocates. So I think that is something that I'm really proud of because it changes the conversation, and I think that's a lot of what ADI, the Adirondack Diversity Initiative, does, is like we change the conversation because there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think. When you say diversity, people get very nervous. They get very kind of closed. And it's like, no. We're talking about how to be better neighbors.
That's just one of the projects you're working on.
Yes.
Tell us more about some of the other things that you're working on right now.
Sure. One that I'm very excited about is our Schoolyard toolkit. Schools are just a huge part of the, you know, 3-pillar stool that make up our communities. So anytime that we can help educators, I think we're doing a service to all of us.
Absolutely.
Because they're asked so much is asked of them. If we were on a playground right now and one child hit another child, everyone here would have the same response, right? Like we don't use our hands that way, you separate the kids, it's like it's knee-jerk. But when something happens and it talks about the child's like socioeconomic reality that they're facing, their weight, their gender, their religion, right? There's a pause because we as adults get into our own heads. We don't want to say the wrong thing. And so there is a stop that happens. And that's a problem because in that stop, when children are looking to us to respond with that knee-jerk response, just like a hit, because it is a hit, it's just not a physical hit, this is where people start to get in their own way because they don't want to say the wrong thing. Right, so lots of times they don't say anything.
Right, you don't say anything.
And here's the issue, because now that child, speaking about not feeling seen, right, doesn't feel seen. Maybe the other child feels vindicated, so it happens again. You know, it starts to get very murky very quickly. Right. So what this toolkit does is really just give like a 1, 2, 3 of if this, then that. If this happens, and it really speaks to having restorative conversations and not being afraid to ask questions and understanding that you're not going to have all the answers, but that you shy away from shame and blame and you move towards understanding. So the child that has been hurt, listening to them, not telling them what they feel, but asking them how they feel, listening to that, and understanding what repair looks like from that side. And for the child that did the hurting, hearing what, you know, that's where you're asking the questions of like, well, what made you say that? How do you think this other person felt? Like, you know, really trying to understand what it is and understanding, working in community with them about repair.
So let me ask you this. So this toolkit, this is for you go into a school setting and you educate the educators on how to,
Yes.
And then, so they then know how to respond.
That's right.
When,
And it goes all the way through too, so it gives you before the incident that you can do an assessment of your school about like how many incidents.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it gives you literally a step-by-step of how to have these restorative conversations so you're not having to think of it in real time. You can be in conversation with the booklet right there so that you feel confident. And then it does follow up too, to make sure that everyone who needs to know in the school is aware of what happened. It helps you follow up with parents and look at what their repair looks like, and making sure that they feel that they're part of the conversation.
What other initiatives do you want to share?
We have because
you have a lot on your plate.
We do have a lot. We do have
plate.
a lot. Well, we have a micro credential, and this is through North NCCC. And so for small businesses, a lot of the time, a small business is like, I really want to be welcoming to my customers. I want to be welcoming to my J1 visa, people that are coming in the summer for seasonal help. With our partnership with North Country Community College, what we've been able to do is offer a course that takes you through the training that would be me. It's 8 modules that you sign up for at the beginning of the semester, and you go through the course, and it gives you, at the end, you get a badge that you would put in your window that says that you've gone through this training. And every 5 years you would re-up the training to make sure that you are on top of it. But it really goes through all of the steps that are necessary to not only create a welcoming environment, but a welcoming culture. And because it's important also that it work both sides of the counter, so that if you are having diversity within your employees, and again, diversity comes in lots of different ways, right? There's seen diversity and there's kind of invisible diversity.
Right.
And in invisible diversity, you have education, you have socioeconomic, there's all of these things. As humans, we have all of these barriers to entry for each other.
Right.
But being able to really allow for an even playing field, right, within your staff, and for your staff to be, because it's a team, right? There's always these team building, team this, team that, right? But if you don't have a culture in which you can actually talk and feel seen and heard and respected, it doesn't matter how much team building you're going to do. It's not going to work.
You're working to change what's below the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, living in the Adirondacks as a Black woman, I'm not necessarily going to see a me when I walk in, but I can feel if I'm welcome or not. You can feel that right away. So I think that is important. It's not about just hiring visible, a diversity. That's not going to change or help the problem per se. It's about making sure that you have a culture that when someone who may look different from the majority comes in, do they feel welcome or not? Yes or no? And it's a yes or no. Do you know what I mean? There's not a mid kind of way. And again, the people that are staffing this, do they feel like this is a place that they want to be as well? And if so, the benefits, again, are not only, the benefits for that also have a huge economic impact for our region.
I want to go back to your comment about a welcoming community. And when you just mentioned when you walk in, whether you feel welcome or not, but what else would you describe about that makes people feel welcome?
I think it's really simple things. Like if you walk in and someone makes eye contact with me, right? If someone says, "Hi, welcome, can I help you?" Things like that, right? I mean, it really is. I think a lot of times people think it's this huge thing, and it's no, it really is treating people like your neighbor, just being kind and saying, "I see you. I see that you're in my store. I'm wanting you to have the best experience in my store, right? So I'm just going to ask how you're doing, if you need any help." What business owners, I think, really need to understand about people who, are typically othered is that the word of mouth spreads quickly. So when I bring up all of my friends, we're not coming back here. We're going to go next door. And we're going to spend all of our money there, because that place where I was welcomed, and I'm going to tell my friends that. And that, I think people forget about that part. If you want to run a successful small business, you have to open yourself up to every dollar coming in.
If there's one takeaway from today's conversation, it's that creating a stronger community doesn't always begin with a large initiative. Often it starts with something much simpler, a conversation, an open mind, or a small act of kindness that helps someone feel seen and welcomed. To learn more about the Adirondack Diversity Initiative and its programs, head to diversityadk.org.